Jim Duke Radio Network. A rational voice in a world of conspiracy. Jim Duke Perspective.
How y'all doing? Darren isn't with me. I'm doing a special episode. I had some things going on that I couldn't get a scheduled time, so I'm doing this solo tonight. But what I wanted to talk about is the alternative media. And do you think we can always trust the alternative media? Many people say because it's alternative, it must not be mainstream. And if it's alternative and not mainstream, it must be trustworthy because it's not tied into the industry. But I'm going to explain how even alternative media can be controlled and can be controlling the truther community. We have the likes of other alternative broadcasters like Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and Elon Musk, who he's not a broadcaster, but he hosts the Twitter account that they call X. He calls X now, which I just can't get used to. I don't like that. Everybody thinks, they're saying X is a symbol for Satan and everything else. So whatever, you come up with, but I don't know if that's just his branding or if it actually is a deliberate thing. But there's a lot of information content provided to keep us informed and engaged. But has that info that you've been given, is it verified? Is it always verified? You see all news, you see all these news reports, and we want to believe them because they're on all these different internet outlets. And we wonder, can they be false too? Well, they can be. Have you verified it? Do you go out and verify everything that you see? Do you trust their source, and then do you go to the sources that they say they got their information from and cross-reference it? I bet you don't. You don't have the time, right? You trust their input. So why verify it, right? And who cares if it's not verified? Who cares if it's, do we have to prove that it's actually authentic? No, it's bringing a point, right? That's what some have said to me. Well, I'm not going to question it because it's still fun. It's still, mysterious, and it's very exciting to believe. But sometimes we have become our own problem because we're not going and cross-referencing them. We're not demanding verification. Many times the alt media sources are just ping-ponging off of the last one, and each of them racing towards being the first to grab your attention. And sometimes they mirror each other. I've come across the various sources that I look into and I say, okay, so here's a report. Let me see where else this is brought up. And I go and I find sometimes 4, 5, 6 sites that all verify the same thing. And most people will say, well, that's more than 2 witnesses. It's a bunch of sources all verifying the same fact. So it must be true, right? Then I look deeper into it, and I find those same sources, all those alt sources, go back to report citing one story, a story from the original report from the one alternative news media. They didn't all find the information. They're just reporting off of the other one. I've seen that a lot of times. It's widely considered credible amongst the platform, but when you trace it back to the original, all it comes back to is one alternative media site. And they got their information from speculation or a whistleblower that can't be identified and nor reveal his true name or even reveal whether his sources are credible or not. Sometimes I've seen circular news. I've seen news that came up last year. I saw it come up and everybody's reporting it like it's fresh, and all the alternative news reports it. And I go back and I do a search, and I find it's the same article that was 5 years ago. They're just recirculating. Are you all catching that? But it keeps us engaged, right? A lot of people won't question it. They like this stuff. They don't want to question it. You know why they don't want to question it? Because they don't want it to be false. They want to believe the worst. And, let me make it clear that we do want to make sure that we're exposing these things, but we do not want to do so in a matter of fabrications. Many people like that, and I don't. That's why I say I'm a rational voice in a world of conspiracy, because I don't want to be irrational. I don't want to be hasty. I don't want to be cynical on everything without verifying it. And some will cite an absolute evidence and proof of credibility from an original source because it was on a YouTube or BitChute video that they viewed. The creator hardly ever cites a source of his information, and they basically act on speculation, making it presented pretty established. And people go for it. There's viewers who have never checked their cited documents or even questioned the conclusions they draw from the information. They easily accept it. And then it gets saturated all over social media as fact. And then we have the question on somebody like Alex Jones. He got reinstated on Twitter, by the way. This is Elon Musk's achievement here. He's encouraging users to follow conspiracy theorist Alex Jones after reinstating his account. So, he can do that if he owns the platform. But why is Elon Musk batting for Alex Jones? You'd either come up with one or two conclusions. The one conclusion is you're saying, well, Elon Musk must feel that Alex Jones is credible. Or you could say that Elon Musk is batting for the agency and he's promoting Elon Musk as a fellow agent of the agency. A lot of things we can say about that. But Alex Jones, he gives us information. He cites documents. Some of the things I wasn't aware of, like he would cite 13603 documents, executive order. That's one of the executive orders that a lot of people passed over. That's one that says it has to do with confiscating your property in a national crisis, a national emergency, or a martial law declared. If they declare martial law, they can kind of seize your property. They can seize your assets. They can seize your bank account. They can actually come in and confiscate your food. And they prevent storage, like hoarding laws, which says you can't have a certain amount of days of storage at your house, which they have no right to. But they do under martial law. They do under the emergency acts that were, by the way, enacted by Republicans, not Democrats. They can suspend the Constitution. And there's a clause in there also, and I don't remember, I used to have it memorized, of forced labor. They can actually claim you as a laborer in a state of emergency where you don't get compensated for. But, somebody like Alex Jones actually found those documents. Or let's say this, he actually has made us aware of those documents. So is he all that bad? Well, without that, I probably wouldn't have been able to search all documents to come up with that. Now, how did he find it? Well, he's got researchers on payroll that check these things. And I know of a couple who worked for him, and they used to check these things, and they used to report these things. And I'm going to tell you right now that he had boundaries. And he told these reporters, we're not, where to go, what to do. We're not going there. We're not reporting that. We're not going any further than this. And they got upset and they left. Is he knowingly staying within the boundaries for a purpose? Or is he trying to be careful? Those are the questions you ask. Now, it's also a possibility that he's fed these documents. Why? So that he could take them to the conspiracy world and overstate them and make him and us seem like we're reacting. We're conspiracy kooks. Some of his information is correct, but it exaggerates the truth sometimes. It comes up with a false conclusion. And he also keeps you appeased by selling you short, going over the boundary near the true sources. So is he controlled? It's a matter of whether he's knowingly controlled or whether he is unwittingly controlled. Controlled oppositions, they call it. And then the information gets saturated on social media as fact. So what happens is, in these cases, the information's out there, the community, the truther community, is appeased with what they hear and what is blown, and they're satisfied, and they never take it further. I don't think Alex Jones goes as far as the Rothschild and Illuminati and coming up with the sources that even we do, because he stays clear of those things. He redirects you to a conclusion that's safe, where we are given it, but we can't do anything with it besides have our own little social network. And the only people listening to us telling about it are the people like us who are in our community. Who cares if we know? That's what the government feel. Who cares if this little community knows? It keeps them out of the way, keeps them thinking that they're doing something, and it never reaches the mainstream. Why? Because they oversaturate the information, they overstate it, they take the hook, line, and sinker, the bait of the fabricated conclusions, of the irrelevant conclusions, and the mainstream that we need to speak to think of us as kooks. So it never gets out there. They're safe. That's fine. They don't care. They got us contained. They got us controlled. We're staying in our little bubble, our little world, where no one outside is really interested in what we have to say, because, we're talking about lizards, and we're talking about aliens, and we're talking about clones, and we're talking about, trannies, those actresses in Hollywood who have been transgendered. They're really men dressed in drag, that's what everybody's saying. So those things they think is ridiculous. They're not going to watch us. They're not going to listen to our stories. Unless we had real credible stuff that ties into something that they're used to, something that they're familiar with, that we can kind of bridge them and bring them into our information and share with them where the holes are and what the real story is. But we never get there. Why? Because we're busy chasing, rabbits. We're busy chasing fake rabbits in a lot of cases. So Elon Musk is another one. We're wondering, gee, he seems like a rebel. He's like a renegade hero. Well, that renegade hero is connected to the WEF. He's been at the conferences. He has technology development in AI and transhumanism. He's even warning us against it while he's producing it. And then you have Joe Rogan. Some have accused him as being a government plant. The story I got is that he had a virtual abusive upbringing. I guess, hard upbringing. Maybe he got yelled at from his father. I don't know what that means. Maybe he got abused. I don't know. But they said he had a rough start. He started a comedy career after advice from a professor of a course he took on government. Huh. I wonder what school he went to. I didn't look it up. And that professor suggested that he could make himself visible by doing comedy. And then he was handed a deal with the industry, I think Disney, and making a way into the Hollywood industry. He blew up in the entertainment field, after being on Fear Factor and different things. And then conspiracies. He started getting into conspiracy theories. And my question is, like, there, as many accusations that he has, those of us who have been on those platforms, YouTube and stuff, we're getting kicked off these for just bringing up these same topics. And yet he's getting a Spotify-sponsored spot, branding him, making a way for him to grow. They're paying him. So we have to question, is he funded? Are the agencies funding him through these groups? Now, when someone is targeted, they often get a yield into the public for a certain demographic. So when they're targeted by the agencies, they get a green light to go into that certain demographic of people that they're meant to reach, because they're being fed information and they're keeping those people appeased. Can they cause damage or, trouble? Yeah. We can try to get on mainstream. We can try to get to the faces of people. But for the most part, we're trapped in our own little circles, in our own little corners. People don't really care if Jim Duke perspective exists or not. And they're not looking for my podcast for information. But when they do awaken or they do have questions, they might kind of surf for information like mine. And then we grab a couple that way. But that small percentage that we grab, it's nowhere near the mainstream. So the mainstream always have a majority. The masses always have a majority. And as long as they keep the masses appeased with the official narrative, our narrative, our conspiracy theories don't mean a thing to them. We're not affecting them. That's why we're not a threat. Until we do start to reach an influence, then they do want to take you down. You could say, oh, Alex Jones is big. Everybody knows him. Do they? Do they really care? I know people that know Alex Jones, know of him, and they still think he's a kook. And I know people that don't know of him or heard of him but don't know what he does. It's not their brand. It's not their type of information. So he can speak, whistleblow all he wants. But he takes you to a regulated conclusion, too. These guys all do. I mean, people like Joe Rogan, he's got some information, but let's face it, the agencies know how to control these people, and by their influence, feeding them information or allowing them to get the information while controlling their boundaries. And whether these guys know it or not, I don't know if Joe Rogan knows he might be a government plant. He's still careful about where he goes. He's still diplomatic about where he goes. But these places, these groups like Spotify are funding him through these affiliations. Does that make him a shill? A shill is someone, I've been accused of a shill by some. I said, if that's true, then I want my paycheck because I didn't get paid. A shill is someone that is claimed to be a patsy for the agency, a plant for the agency. And the agency, they're an agent, so they're getting paid by the agency. That's what I was accused of once. I'm being paid by the intel agency to come up with my information. Well, you can get paid other ways too. I'm not getting paid by Spotify or anything, but I get monetization, a little bit of amount just to keep the podcast running, but I'm not I'm not gaining any wealth off of it. I can't live off of this. Matter of fact, I can't even do it half the time because it's not, my reach is very small and I'm putting effort into it. And, the return isn't really there that much anymore. I believe we're heard a lot on the other networks like Shake and Wake Network with Ann there. She's helped us. And they've told us that there's listeners over there. We have listeners on YouTube, a little bit, not much, but they squash your numbers. They play with their numbers, so you never get a real account anyway. But, Joe Rogan's brought a different aspect to podcasting, but is this by design? Was he led to this? It appeases those of us who don't have any power to reach or do anything about it. We can grieve about it. We can sound the bugle, but it's not sounding the mainstream bugle. It's only sounding our community. Preaching to the choir most of the time. But perhaps these high-profile personalities are there to divide this dissidents from the mainstream. Maybe they're to give the dissidents, those that are defiant of government, questionable, whistleblowers, all of them, a place. Maybe it's giving them a community to keep them out of trouble. These guys cause listeners to hear a deeper inside information, and they make you satisfied, but are they telling the whole story? Are they really telling you the inside? They're leading you to it, but they're not really telling you. They kind of stop short. So they're like gatekeepers. Now, I do have to say conspiracies are real, but we have to differentiate from the fake sites, from the fabrications, and the saturations that are plastering all over the internet. These are what gives us a bad names. The discrediting, the saturated fabrications out there that can't be proven and that everybody runs with and says, oh, it's proven. I mean, we've even been caught doing that. Darren often says, oh, I got undoubtedly absolute substantial proof. And I ask him to bring it. What do you have? And he says, oh, this video shows it. Well, what's the video? What's the credibility of the video? I can make a video. Anybody can make I can make a video and tell you I got it from an insider. I got intel information. And I have, by the way, I have had inside information. And I can tell you that I did, but I can't tell you I have absolute fact. You got to believe me. This is what they're doing. I may say I have an inside intel agent or inside whistleblower who gave me this information. And from what they tell me, this is happening. But I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert. I'm not going to tell you that this person is absolutely credible, that you have to believe me now and make, but, these people are putting out videos. They're not even having insiders tell them. They're just coming up with speculation, and people are naively believing that it must be true because they put a video out. But why don't you believe my videos? I put videos out. It's pretty interesting what truthers constitute as truth. But what we do is, as many creators saturate the airwaves, the podcasts, the videos with all these videos, and some of them about, hollow earth, some of them about flat earth, some of them about, the Illuminati, of course, the New World Order, but reptilians, pictures of shapeshifters. And, we don't have any proof of shapeshifters because if we did, we'd see it, or somebody would have a picture. But once in a while, someone grasped a video frame of Joe Biden's earlobe moving. I'm come on. This is, and that, it oversaturates the real information. Do you get what I'm saying? Oversaturate. It puts more information out there that we even vastly have connection to. And then what happens is when we mention these things that we're into and people go to look it up, all they see is this fabricated information, all the saturation of information. They can't find the information. That's by design too. The agencies, the platforms do this thing called forum slides. And forum slides is a way that they take our newsworthy information, the credible information, and they saturate it with nonsensical information, and they squash us and put it further down into the wall, into the feed. Is that by design? You know, I'd love to stop all the discredited information so that we could get to the real nuggets. But, you know, it's freedom of speech too on their side. But this is why we're not getting an impact. So this is what I'm trying to get through to you, is that don't just believe it just because it was on alt media. Don't even believe me. I mean, I try to give as many sources as I can, and sometimes I don't. And I'll tell you, though, I got speculation about this, or this is what I think. From the information I have, this is where I think it's going. But you got to look it up. You got to, you know, if I come up with a source, I'm going to tell you where the source is. I just mentioned just now, Executive Order 13603. Look it up. You can find it. And it talks about confiscations. It's very easy to look this stuff up. But if I tell you that they're coming into your home next month and they're going to take all your stuff because this executive order is on the books, you know, lock up your doors, you know, hide your wife, they're coming to get you, they're taking. Well, now I put fear in your mind based on this real policy that's out there. And I can sell many books. I could sell many videos warning you for the next 6 months that they're coming to get you. I could tell you from this document that the banks are closing. They're going to shut down the banks. They're going to have a banking holiday. They're going to shut down the banks. You can't get your money. I would get your money. Matter of fact, put your money in gold. Matter of fact, I sell a gold marketing plan that you can buy my gold. No, I don't, but I'm being facetious, folks, that I can sell you this stuff that is fear-mongering. Now, I did have, I was latched onto some of this because it was new to me. It was fresh. They were starting to grow, you know, a pattern of things happening. You know, banks threatened and economy threatened and food threatened. So I did call out to a wholesale food outlet of survival foods. I asked them to sponsor us, and they did. And I bought some survival food. But I also told you, if you're looking for some, they're a sponsor of ours. Why don't you check them out? I got accused of being peddling products for my podcast so I can make money. No, there was sponsorship to help the show go. And I believed that there was stuff going on. They told me I was spreading fear to try to sell products. I wasn't. But there are people that do. There are people that'll sell you conspiracies so that they can sell you their program, their book, their subscriptions. I'm just warning you, be better. Look up this, ask them where their sources are. If somebody tells you something, don't just go, oh, really? Oh, I'm going to tell everybody. Before you tell everybody and you saturate the market and help the controlled opposition, look it up. I saw on the internet the other day, matter of fact, they said, when did Maria Osmond died? And they said, oh, yeah, I just heard about it. And I said, where did you hear about it? It's all over the news. It's all over all media. There you go again. So I looked it up, and I did a very simple search and found Maria Osmond's next speaking engagements and found that, in fact, she is not dead. She just spoke the night before at a gala. And she's still doing her commercials. What are they talking about? Well, they got wind of a false information site. And instead of checking the resources, alternative media just publicized it. And these people latch on it, and they don't question it. I questioned it, and I reported back to them, stop. You should have looked it up. Do your due diligence. I don't expect you to do the research that you're expecting the researchers to do. I don't expect you to get the information I get, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this show, and you'd get your own information. But if I say something that you want to question, look it up. Look at the facts. Look at the sources. And if I got the source wrong, let me know. All right? So my website is jimdukeperspective.com. I can be found on all your favorite apps, your favorite players, your podcast players. And I'm on YouTube as Jim D Perspective on the newer channel. I can be found on Twitter, Jim Duke Perspective. And I can be found on Facebook / Jim Duke Perspective. Facebook.com / Jim Duke Perspective, I think is how you find it, my page. I'm not really accepting a lot of people on my personal page right now because it's just getting overwhelming, and I can't post personal stuff there because it's going to everybody out there that's just trolls and everything. So I got to be careful. So anyway, until next time, God bless, and we'll see you. Thanks for listening, and I do have a Patreon page if you want to contribute. I do have a one-time contribution on the sidebar of the website if you want to contribute. The website's been banned off of Facebook, so I can't post it. But, to keep this stuff alive, costs thousands of dollars a year, and I don't have it, to be honest with you. And if I don't get funding to at least pay for it, it's not really worth it for a handful of people. I'll just invite you over to my house, and we can do the session here. All right? We'll see you next time. God bless.